Or do we want to sit in the back? Huh? It's on purpose.
They have the generator.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District. Today is September 20th, 2017, and the time is 6 p.m. Ms. Martinez, if you would take roll call, please.
Mrs. Angelina Ospedin.
Present.
Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr.
Here.
Mrs. Linda Longoria. Present. Mrs. Leticia Guerra. Here. Mrs. Connie Prado.
Present.
Mrs. Helen Mandla Prather. Present. Mrs. Elda Flores. Present.
Okay. Now we are going to the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge, prayer, and the call to action. Dr. Sterling.
Good evening, everyone. Our pledge will be led by Gianna Fuentes, a fifth grader at Benavides. Gianna has been on the honor roll since kindergarten, was an accelerated reader in second grade. She placed first in her science fair project in third grade, was commended for her fourth grade math and reading star scores, and she's had perfect attendance since kindergarten. She's joined by her principal, Dr. Raul Nomorza, and that's something to applaud. She's also joined by her two parents, who are both employees of the district. Also, our prayer tonight and call to action will be read by Elizabeth Pedron, our Superstar Employee of the Month from Dwight. Principal Hernandez says she's an integral part to their campus success, that she provides world-class customer service and always does it with a great attitude and a smile. And she said that there's nothing that she can't handle. Ladies?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We will start with a moment of prayer. Lord, thank you for protecting our city and people from this month's flooding. We pray for the people of Houston and the Gulf Coast as we ask that you are with them as they clean up and get back to work and school. Please guide them, our students, parents, and staff, as we continue these first few weeks of our school. We ask this in your name. Amen. We will proceed with a call of action. All students
will enjoy successful education experiences to empower them to make decisions and enrich their lives in the future they create.
Board members, usually at this time, we would go into closed session, but I'd like to change the order of the day. I'd like to continue with the citizens to be heard, the superintendent's remarks, the recognition, the presentations and reports before we go into closed session. Do I hear any objection? So moved. Okay, so let's move forward. Dr. Saavedra. Citizens to be heard. Can I have the signing? Rosalind Gonzalez. Before you begin, council, can you go over the guidelines?
Yes, Madam Clerk. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, members of the public will have the opportunity to address the Board of Trustees during the section on the citizens' agenda item. Each speaker should sign in on the public comment sheet available at the Board of Trustees meeting. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. The Board of Trustees may, if any member deems it necessary, limit both the number of speakers and the time allotted to each speaker upon motion and a second by any other member. Under the law, the Board of Trustees may only take action on items specifically listed on the agenda. Subject matter presented, which is not part of the agenda, will be referred to the appropriate department for review and subsequent action. Therefore, the Board of Trustees may not take formal action on any requests made during the public comment period, which are not on the agenda, but can refer such requests to staff for review if appropriate. Normal rules of decorum are expected during this section of the agenda, and disruption will not be tolerated.
You may begin.
Hi, my name is Rosa Gonzalez. I go to Hudson Elementary. I'm in 5th grade and I'm 10 years old. The problem is that we don't have our buses. We also need flashing lights by the underpass. If this continues, people continue to get hurt or be murdered or hurt. And I also have a question for y'all. Do y'all walk to work? Thank you.
Closer. Do your thing, girl.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Perez and I'm a student at Hutchins Elementary. And I'm here to represent the kids that don't have buses. And there's a big patch of grass and you never know if someone should take it or not. And we're asking if you could put lights before Garden Valley and before the crosswalk. Because if you don't do this, our bus will be coming back and it will look bad.
Navi Herrera. Sorry, I said it wrong.
Hi, my name is Maria Herrera and I'm 10 years old. And I go to Hudson Elementary and I represent the kids that don't have transportation to get to school. The problem is that you guys won't give us our buses back, so there is going to be injuries, and if not injuries, then death. And I don't think you guys want to have to deal with that. So if not, then probably please just give us our buses back. If not, then at least make the route a little safer. So put a cross guard. If not, then some blinking lights. And please just give us our buses back. That's all we're asking. That's it. If you have kids that are underage, you understand that they are very distracted They don't understand that you have to make it to school. If not, then you're gonna get hurt. And I don't think you guys are gonna have to deal with that either. Please give us a lesson that we're not gonna keep coming back. Thank you.
Manuel de la O.
My name is Manuel De Lo. I'm a group that formed when we moved from Mission Trails to homes. It's the Mission Trails Home Park. We're vecinos. I'm from a group vecinos at Mission Trails, and we're backing these kids. Some of them used to live at Mission Trails. They had to change school. They said that set pressure and anxiety on them. They didn't want to move and lose their friends. Now you are taking the bus and they used to ride. And it's very dangerous there. Walking to school, you have aggressive drivers going too fast and honking at each other. They're in a rush to work. They're always running late to work. That's when accidents happen. I sure don't want any of these children hurt or dying from one of these accidents. I don't want it, me and my conscience, if something happens to them. I have to do something for them, for their safety. Consider about getting school buses there, small ones, or get one of the other buses to drive them over to their school. And you need some signs on someone, and you need a crossbar. And that time that we walked over here, Councilman Reza Daniel walked with those kids, and he almost got hit by a car. Thank you.
President of the board and board members, my name is Juan Lee, and I'm here in concern of my nephew that was forcibly withdrawn from school and by the administrator. And the administrator was having issues with his grandma, and everything was taken out on him. Forcibly asked to be withdrawn. He was not in the district, but it was honorably signed by our administrator for him to go to the school. And now the issues that the administrator is having with his grandma have been taken out on my great nephew, and I think that's uncalled for. Nothing I'd like for that to be looked over. Nothing conservative. Hope you've seen everything that's going on here in the district, and hope you're here for the voices of the children, the safety of buses being transferred by buses, voices of the community is not being heard. At least you can hear the voices of the children that are in danger. And I believe I read in one of the articles where it was seen about the danger that's on Highway 16 to get over to school. Another thing is that at conservative or in TA, we need something done. We need help for our community and our children because our voices are not being heard. Thank you very much.
Stacy Alderete.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Alderete. I am here this evening to address 3 issues. First, I am disappointed to hear that our bus transportation problems for some of our Southland High School students and other students still persists. If these students were provided transportation last year, they should receive transportation this year. It's that simple. So if we are enforcing the 2-mile rule this year, why didn't we apply that rule last year? What is more upsetting, it is my understanding that a board member submitted a request to place the bus transportation problem on tonight's agenda. The board leadership felt this student and parent nightmare was not important enough, so she decided to deny the request. Maybe they want to put it on a special called board meeting agenda and therefore deny the parents their right to speak on the item. At any rate, our students and their parents come in last again. We will keep fighting for our students. They need their transportation back without a contract. The second item is on our current student enrollment. The district for budget purposes projected our enrollment at 9,360 students. We have not met that projection. It is my understanding that we are between 250 to 300 students below projection. We know that our lowest enrollment rates come toward the end of the school year. What does this all mean to the taxpayers of our school district? It means we will be receiving a $1 million to $1.5 million less in state revenue. And if we do not meet our refined ADA projections, we will be in deeper financial trouble. Our enrollment could have received a boost by the closing of the Alamo Leadership Academy, a charter school adjacent to Athens Elementary. The charter school had an enrollment of approximately 119 students. And in speaking to some of the parents, they would have sent their children to our district, but closing Athens didn't help. In the private sector, when a CEO loses money for their corporation, they get replaced. We are short in our enrollment projections and therefore losing state revenue because of three major reasons. Closures of schools, forced bilingual cluster model, and our parents and inviting idea charter school systems within our district. Who is responsible for the loss of enrollment and loss of state revenue? All of you seated at this dais know the answer to that question. Third issue deals with the board's evaluation of the superintendent. As I recall as a former trustee, there is a section in the evaluation dealing with communication. Communication does not mean only talking with board members. Communication means being open to all stakeholders of our educational community. Communication means to practice inclusiveness. Communication means involving the community in decisions that affect all of our schools. Communication is a two-way street, not my way or the highway. Remember, there are two kinds of evaluations, one conducted by the board, the other, and the most important, is the evaluation conducted by the community. Thank you. And I also ask that board members, you consider today, the word's going around that we're going to get our buses back, but with a contract. That's strings attached. And I consider that you look into that. Thank you.
Shawnee Sotelo.
Hello, my name is Siani Sotelo. I am a freshman. I go to South Side High School, and thank you for giving us our buses back. But my brother goes to Hutchins Elementary, and he needs his bus because my mom works it in the morning, and he can't go walking because he's too small, and it's really hot outside, as you can see. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. That concludes citizens to be heard. Dr. Sotelo.
Thank you, Mr. Beginning, members of the board. I would like to start my remarks in addressing some of the transportation issues, and I think this is important information for the young people that spoke today, as well as the adults that represent them. The area that we're talking about, the students going to Hutchins, I believe, are students that reside east of Sasamora, and I believe south of the freeway. And initially, when the school year started, the city of San Antonio had previously had a crossing guard at the corner of Sasamora and Hutchins. And we learned after school started that that crossing guard had been removed by the city. The school district placed a police officer there for 2 weeks at the corner of Hutchins and Sasamona to help children cross. The numbers of students that were crossing were very limited, estimated about 4 or 5 students being crossed by parents. The district at that point removed the police officer, but we did request from the city of San Antonio that they reevaluate that crossing and place a crossing guard there. Today, by email, we received the city's response of their evaluation. The city of San Antonio has declined and has not approved the appointment of a crossing guard at Hutchins and South Zamora after they've done their evaluation. For the same reason, quite frankly, that the school district pulled up police officer after 2 weeks. What the city basically says after they evaluated that crossing is that there's very few students crossing at that intersection. But I must say that I agree with the parents and the young people that spoke a few minutes ago. Crossing that street by elementary students is a dangerous situation, and the district needs to provide some type of relief. There is actually some transportation that is occurring of elementary students going to Hutchins that live also east of Sasamona, but south of Ansley Street. And we run at least one bus, I believe sometimes 2 buses in that area. There's capacity on those 2 buses left, and that's that those buses are not running full. So as quickly as we can, within the next few days, we will adjust the schedule to where those buses will have a stop at the corner of Ansley and Sasamora, which is right in that immediate area, right at the corner. And what I would like to do is invite the parents that are here tonight to step out with Mr. Zamora, this tall gentleman here at the front. When I get through talking here, he and some others will step out with you, fill out some forms so we can get your information, your addresses, if you want to do that, if you want your students to be eligible for transportation. But I do believe there's sufficient space in the buses that are being run to be able to provide that service. So I believe the majority of the students that spoke tonight are students from that immediate area, and I believe we can provide some relief and provide that transportation. Also related to transportation, there are other students in other parts of the district that do not reside outside of 2 miles. The district regulation is that you have to reside outside of 2 miles to be eligible for transportation. As I stated earlier, on these other 2 buses, many of our buses do have capacity, do have room available even now. So we are making those buses available for students that live between 1.5 miles and 2 miles. And they don't necessarily meet the 2-mile requirement, but if space is available, we will allow those students to ride those buses. Those letters to about 750 students, or families rather, have gone out. They should have been received probably by today, tomorrow at the latest. We're asking parents to complete this application, get it back to us by next Wednesday, so that once we get the total number, we can assign students to buses that might have capacity. It may not resolve all the issues that parents have brought to our attention, but it will resolve a large majority of those issues. So I would encourage parents that have received these letters to follow up, complete the forms, get them back to the school system so that we can evaluate your request and hopefully provide some bus service as quickly as middle of next week or so. Those are all my comments in reference to bus service. I also want to talk a little bit about, well, before I do, JC, would you and Mr. Becerra help these people and have them fill out some forms if they would like to have some of that service? So I would encourage the parents, if you are interested in that service, to please complete those forms and we will evaluate it. I would also like to state that I had the opportunity today, along with the board presidents and some other board members, to visit with the Express News editorial board, as well as the Rivard report, to talk a little bit about some exciting things that are going on in the district participation in the system of Great City Schools. South San is one of 8 school districts in the state selected to participate in this program. It's a program that will provide opportunities at the middle school level next year, and we will shortly in the meeting we will report out concerning our plans for launching middle school academies at the 3 middle schools next year. We had the opportunity today, like I said, to talk to these 2 media sources. Also talk a little bit about the very academic successes that our students have had here at South San in the last year or so. Good things continue to happen here at South San. Even the football team has a 3-0 record at this point. We're proud of those young people, and I would encourage our community to participate in these programs and let us know if there's issues. By all means, let us know how we can assist you in any way that we can. I believe that concludes all my remarks at this point. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going into the recognitions. Number 1, September Superstar Employee of the Month, Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, I'm calling Jocelyn. We do have our Superstar of the Month.
Hello, as I briefly mentioned earlier, a very special honoree. Tonight we are recognizing our September Superstar Employee of the Month, who has been with our district for 44 years, first as a student, then as a special education teacher, and then as a business professional. She says her position can be challenging, but that there's a spark in her that always wants to do better and stand out. She said that she's blessed to know she has a wonderful boss that always reminds her that she's important and means something. She adds that she's a wife, mother, and a hard worker who loves South San. We'd like to congratulate Dwight Middle School's Elizabeth Padron, nominated by her principal, Ivan Hernandez. Please come and have your picture taken.
Dr. Saavedra, may I add that while you were getting ready, the first part of her 44 years starting as a student, she was my 3rd grade student when I was teaching at kindergarten.
Thank you so much.
So next on our agenda is recognition of our South San Antonio schools and principals for exemplary performance. So Madam President, Dr. Saavedra, members of the board, Dr. Castleberry, a core belief of South San is we believe strong and effective leadership is essential to build a culture of high expectations. Today we not only recognize strong and effective leadership, but school success. So we'll go ahead and begin, Dr. Saavedra. Highest average attendance for an elementary goes to Hutchins Elementary. If y'all can stay up so we can have everyone together. Highest average attendance for secondary school is Zamora Middle School. Liz, go ahead. Highest increase in attendance for secondary schools was Kazin Middle School. We asked the former principal, Next is greatest academic gains, elementary, Five Palms Elementary. Greatest academic gains, secondary, is Kazin Middle School. Again, Mr. Johnson. Our next recognition goes to school with most distinctions earned, and that is Carrillo Elementary School. Next, highest increase in attendance, elementary, Benavides Elementary School. Outstanding first-year principal, our Rookie of the Year, Ms. Nicole Spears. And our Principal of the Year for South San Antonio ISD is Dr. Lee Hernandez. So we could get a picture with all the recipients.
Board members, are there any comments on the recognitions? And I mean, Ms. Flores would like something to say. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I wrote some things down because I know that at the last board meeting or two, we also recognized the schools that did very well in our accountability system, and I'd like to thank, the administrators and the hard work that they've done. And I'm not sure there's a school out there that has received distinctions for 3 years in a row. Doug, we're still looking at that. Okay, but I think that needs to be mentioned, because that is we're proud of all our schools that had their distinctions this year. But if there's been a school that has had it every year for 3 years, I think that deserves to be mentioned.
Yes, there's more than one.
There's more than
so
one.
we can celebrate that in the next.
Wonderful. But if I may add this, I join in applauding our school teams for the amazing progress that has been made this past year. Our teachers and our leaders have worked so hard to get us here. We know that the young people in our community have the potential to achieve at high levels when we all keep a laser focus on student outcomes. And I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the commitment to high achievement that we see in our students and families. We wouldn't be seeing these gains unless our families were making learning a priority in their homes. And so thank you, teachers, principals, central office staff, and most especially our young people and their parents, because they're the ones who have to send their children to school, and that's where the attendance comes in. So thank you, everyone, for the hard work.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or mentions, board members? Mrs. Brady?
I'd also like to congratulate all the principals for their hard work. And it's just really disturbing that the news media leaves, because this is so positive, but positive doesn't do ratings and positive doesn't sell newspapers, but they leave with a negative. And I'm just so glad that you all have kept the positive attitude. And I hope in those little black boxes that there's wine bottle openers. Congratulations and thank you.
Are there any other comments or mentions? I'd like to say thank you for those principals, your dedication, and your commitment to returning another year and to face those challenges again, with blessing. Have a wonderful school year and keep up the good work because it shows. So thank you as well. Okay, so now we're going into presentation and reports. Number 1, middle schools redesign, update on the academies of choice. Dr. Saavedra?
We'll call Ms. Costa to present this report.
Okay, so again, good evening, board members. I'd like to update you on the progress that has been made on the redesign of our middle schools. I'm proud to say that this process has been inclusive of students, parents, teachers, and administrators. So I always like to align it to our strategic design. So I know I've shared this with the board before, but our core belief 1 and our district strategy number 2 is where the idea actually came of middle school magnets. This actually did not come from the district. I know we got support from the SGS, the System of Great Schools grant, but this actually came from when we first created our strategic design and getting input from the community, asking about how can we redesign our middle schools. So it's been in our strategic design, I think, for the past 2 years with expectation of execution for 2018. So I think that's something to be noted, that our community was also excited about this opportunity. So what we've been doing is we've had survey data that went out to several participants. We had 794 printed versions, and these were parents of primarily parents from 3rd through 5th grade. What we did is we ended up getting, with all the elementary principals, getting these surveys out in time for their Meet the Teacher on, I think most of them had it on August 17th, some had it on August 16th, but we were able to get copies to them. So therefore, as they went through the process, we had parents fill out right then and there and turn them in. So we had a lot of feedback from, and the reason why we chose 3rd through 5th is those are the incoming middle school students. So we got input from those parents. Then we had about 453 online versions. We're assuming that this is mostly students, and again, we're assuming it's mostly parents just of the way the process went. We can't affirm how many were parents, how many were students, because it is anonymous. But we did get responses of 1,247. The overall top 3 choices were STEM, fine arts, health science, and then college prep was embedded in all 3 academies. So let me kind of go through what the data showed. So on question 1 and question 2, it was basically identify what school are you with, and then how satisfied are you with the academics at the middle school your student attends. So I believe this has been on board book and shared with the board. In question 3 is the area of interest that ranked in the top 3. So we kind of looked at this in different ways, where we saw STEM, fine arts, and college prep. Then we also saw, again, STEM, fine arts, instructional technology, that's IT, college prep again, and health science. So as we looked at all this, we decided through the design team that, okay, we know STEM, since was the most popular, we can embed instructional technology through STEM. And college prep, we had an expectation of all middle schools need to be college prep, regardless. So that can be embedded in fine arts in all 3. And so with the revamping and reopening of our Health Science Academy, the design teams would like to see a health science focus at one of the middle schools. So that's how we chose. So those are the first 2, and on the right, the interested in choice programs, 38% and 36% were highly to somewhat interested in a choice program, because we wanted to see, what is your interest in deciding, to go this route. Question 4, how likely are you to attend a school other than your zone school to access a program with a specialized area of interest? So the results, and I'm not sure if we can see, but basically every single elementary showed an interest in choice academies. And then question 5, how can we best serve your student needs through future schools of choice services?
Frequent responses to this question included, more parent involvement, college prep, a focus on building relationships between students and staff and parents, a lot on more increasing after-school programs and clubs, and based on student interest. So the academy locations we are considering and looking at is putting STEM at Dwight Middle School, Fine Arts at Shepherd, and then Health Science at Zamora. These were chosen after visiting the actual facilities at each middle school and seeing the potential of what holds for each without having to do, major renovations. So since there was the most interest, our highest interest was STEM, Dwight currently has the greatest capacity to take those kids without a lot of renovation. So since it had the most capacity, the design teams, said, okay, let's consider STEM at Dwight. And then again, we walked Shepherd, Fine Arts at Shepherd, and then since Health Science is closer to Palo Alto College and a little closer to the high school, we wanted a close connection to the Health Science Academy at the high school. So the next phase is now, and as we go through this, every week we have a conference call with our Systems of Great Schools consultant every Thursday, who is updating us, making sure we hold to our timelines, stay on track on what she said, updates us and sends us, we have expectations and goals to be done basically every week. So in October, we needed to, she wanted we were hoping to get site visits done in September. However, with Hurricane Harvey, we did not know, we kind of put the pause button on a minute because we didn't know if we were going to be, how many evacuees we were going to be receiving. There were some Houston schools we wanted to go to, but with all that, so we kind of put the pause button for September, but we're still on track by doing this in October. So, we're looking at, I believe we're having 2 visits this Friday in Judson to look at their STEM and the School of Science and Technology, which is a charter. And then there's looking at Crowley ISD has a STEM academy, and then a STEAM academy, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We're reached out to D.A. Hulsey Middle School in Dallas for an October 3rd visit. They have not responded, but that's who also has a STEM academy. That's middle school. We're trying to get, a school within a school, the model we're looking for, school within a school that's in middle school. So our Fine Arts Academy that we're looking to go visit is a Fine Arts Academy in Fort Worth that I believe is a charter. Griner Exploratory Arts Academy Middle School that is also in Dallas. And then in Health Science, we're looking at, for Zamora to attend, would be Jabisky Health Science Academy in Green Prairie, Ben Barber Innovation Academy in Mansfield. And if you notice, all of those we're hoping to set, we're trying to be efficient with our time and our money, that we go on October 23rd, Dallas area, everybody goes to their school, comes back. Now this is being reimbursed by the Systems of Great Schools. They have allocated funding specifically for us to go on site visits. I don't want to use all the money for this too. I also, once they are established, I'd also like more opportunities, to maybe send more of the design team. So we're trying to be really efficient with this first visit. So just to continue with the timeline, their design teams each middle school design teams are meeting regularly and will continue to meet at least twice a month. We have our district design team that actually has been meeting every week. And again, like I mentioned, site visits have been scheduled with all 3 design teams. And we will begin looking and building the job descriptions for the directors to lead this at each middle school. And so that's being discussed with the design teams. And then hopefully we're hoping for a public relations kickoff to share out with the community our choice academies, hopefully we're hoping for a target of November 8th. And then our expectation is once we come back from the holidays that student applications are open for each choice academy. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Board members, the floor is open for any questions, comments, or concerns. Mr. Yavaga?
Could you tell us, I got a few things, could you tell us who the district design team is made up of?
The district, it is our SGS consultant. It is the 3 campus principals, our CTE coordinator, Mr. Balderrama, myself, and our director of STEM and advanced academics.
Sorry, I didn't know it was that many. Can you just email that to me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry. I thought it was just a couple.
Oh, no, and the 3 campus principals.
Okay.
Now, once we identify directors, that's going to move to the director's role.
Perfect. Do we have a cost factor? What this is going to cost for us to kind of kick this off? Have we figured anything out with that?
Cost factor as far as to implement the academies? Yes. No, sir. We don't have a cost, not at this point we don't. You know, because we really have to completely design it, and until we do that, right now I have no idea. Okay. Yeah.
We are trying to get some projections and talking with these schools to identify, you know, what next steps are. I believe some of the STEM academies said, you know, they only started with four classrooms. You know, they started very small and now it's expanded. So hopefully from the site visits, we'll be able to get an idea of not only cost like for personnel, but also, you know, what renovations might be needed, you know, as the program grows. So I believe the schools that we are visiting, you know, they, like us, like all school districts, you know, didn't have a lot of money to start, but they started small, and as more kids, you know, were added, you know, as you know, the money follows the kids, and so it was able to expand. But we are, you know, like I said, those are some of the questions that we're hoping to ask and get a kind of an idea for when we hit these site visits.
The other thing related to cost is facility modifications, whatever they might be required, most likely would be part of the future bond issue. Because in some cases, the facility modification will be significant. If Shepherd's going to be a fine art school, for example, they need, just for starters, a brand new band hall. If Dwight's going to go into STEM, I'm sure there's going to be some modification. We have floor space, but we don't necessarily, the space is not necessarily conducive to a program like that at this point. You know, same thing with Samoa. So I anticipate that the facility modifications would have to be part of a future bond issue.
Okay. So as we kind of progressed and developed this idea and we started gathering the community input, what was the process to gather the community input?
So the
parent surveys.
The parent surveys that we shared, we've also had each campus have parents a part of their design team and teachers a part of their design team. And so they've met at a minimum of twice a month, and they are the ones that are really giving us actually quite very good input, I must say. I know the Dwight team, the parent that serves on that committee also serves in our District Improvement Council, and they have been getting a lot of excellent feedback from that group. So yes, so we have parents that are on each design team.
Awesome. So my last question, or my last comments, the pathways, and have we mapped the pathways from these academies to possibly lead into the high school? And then have we kind of mapped those and linked to bridge to post-secondary and then higher education or employment trends in the region?
Yes.
We tried to kind of
Yes, and so what we're working on, along with everything that we're working on, is really reaching out to business partners and identifying with them. In fact, me and the director of STEM and our CTE coordinator were discussing this just today, is identifying what are the needs of Toyota. Like when you hire someone, what are the skill sets you look for? Leadership, creative, whatever that is. Now, what do we need to adjust as a school system to help you get those, get those skill sets? And so, as this is all going on, we need to reach, our role up here as well is to identify industry partners, not only with our 3 choice, but we should have an industry partner with every CTE class offered at the high school. And when we mean partner, it's not they're going to come and say hello, come do a speech, one day. This is a track for a position, a job. And so I don't think that has been executed as far as the CTE that we have and having that pathway towards a career. So that's what we're really looking at. I think it's called compression meetings, talking about, what are your skill sets for the university, hospital, and what do you look for? What are those skill sets that you need that we can help provide you and therefore address that through our health science? Or address that not just through the 3 academies, but also with our automotive program. So as we're kicking this off, we're not just going to limit these industry partners just to these 3 programs. We need to have an industry partner for every CTE course out there.
That's all my comments right now. Thank you for all the work that you're putting into this, and I really support SGS. I know we're going to do great. It's going to put South San on the map. I appreciate everything that y'all are doing, and we fully support it.
Thank you.
Mrs. Guerra?
Okay, Ms. Castro, you said some funding was allocated for the site visits you will be doing. Any chance we get any funding for the facility modifications, or if that's just on the
I don't think so. They're not, no. No.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns, board members? Okay, moving on. Mrs. Flowers?
I do. Just to start, I think school of choices is the thing. As we saw in the news just recently, Verstop also, I think, is looking into that at Southwest. They've already started that program, but I think all the districts eventually are going to go with schools of choice. So I think we're just catching up, but I think in time we'll be able to do that. I have a question because of Dwight. I know Dwight has been identified as a STEM school. Is that going to have the facilities, from what I've heard with Dr. will that encompass the main campus and the D wing, or is it just going to be in the main campus?
It's going to depend how many applications we get. If it's only, and so a lot of this, when it comes to space, it's going to depend on how many students apply. So I don't want to hold us back, if we have all 6, if, let's say 600, applications come in for STEM at Dwight, I wouldn't want to just hold it, oh no, you 200 can't come. We would like to accommodate, and so at that point, we would consider, what rooms we have to use or what space we need. But I don't think it's, at this time, we don't know, and so it's kind of, we just need to wait to see what the applications come up in January when it comes to space at Dwight.
So if, let's say, we have an influx of students that just want to come to our STEM program, it would be a good thing. What's going to happen to our adult education centers there?
We probably would reassign them somewhere else if we needed the space. I think the first priority would be to accommodate the needs of the students, and then if we needed to recapture that space, then we would continue with the adult program, but most likely somewhere else. So space might be available.
The other question I have is, I know that we don't have the funding now. I'm assuming there's nothing currently in the budget that would allow us to make the modifications needed to start the program. Is it the intent of the district to start the program next school year, or?
Yes, ma'am. Right now, the target is to open up these academies next fall.
And are you going to be able to use the current facilities without modification to start the program?
Most likely, yes. I think we would be in a position to start the programs. Some programs would, or some facilities would need to be modified as we move forward. A lot of those modifications will be dependent on whether or not we can get support for facility maintenance through a budget.
Okay. There. So there's not going to be any renovations that possibly could come out of our budget currently?
There will not be any significant, and I won't say there won't be any, and there won't be any significant modifications.
Okay. So, and I know that there's going to be some sites that are visiting, and Dr. Sveta had mentioned that visits were going to be locally, but on the presentation, now you all are going like to Dallas and to Fort Worth. And is it the team that was just mentioned that Mr. Ibarra, is that the team that's going to be making the site visits? Is there any parent involvement in the team? Are they part of the process at each campus?
Yes, ma'am. All of them have parent involvement at each campus. And we've even asked, depending on their work schedule, we want parents, you know, the parent from each, or parents from each campus to come. But it's, you know, can they take a full day? Because it's going to be, you know, that morning we fly in and fly out that evening. So that's what our design teams are working on right now for that October 23rd day. And because we picked that day because it's a teacher work day, so therefore, you know, if teachers want to attend to, or try to substitute, they, you know, they're not missing a day of instruction.
That's all I have, Dr. Sveta. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, report on 2017-2018 SSAISD student enrollment. Dr. Saavedra.
Okay, let me just wait half a minute here as we bring up the PowerPoint. We have started the school year. We're into the 5th week of the school year. And I wanted to share with the board where we are enrollment-wise. We've had a lot of discussions really since last spring concerning the issue of declining enrollment in our district. But I wanted to share with you where we are today. We're better informed today as to what the enrollment will be for this year versus where we were at last spring. This first slide gives you a five-year view of enrollment at the high school. 5 years ago, the high school had a little under 2,400 students. Today, as of last Friday, we have over 2,600 students. So as you can see, the high school continues to grow. And that's a positive thing, it's a good thing. Next slide. Here we have 5-year trend as it pertains to our 3 middle schools. The first one to the left is Dwight. Dwight was at 511 students 5 years ago, and today they are at 653. So you can tell from that bar graph that Dwight is doing well in enrollment as compared to where we were 5 years ago. The middle school, the middle bar chart is Shepherd Middle School, and five years ago they were at 597 students. Today they're about 559. Well, we've dropped somewhat. We've not dropped all that much. Shepherd is the one middle school that was not affected by the consolidation of Cason Middle School. The students from Cason were consolidated both into Dwight and to Samoa, and these bar graphs show you the impact of that consolidation. On the right-hand side is Samoa, and today Samoa is slightly under 800 students, 784. So they've had significant growth, and the enrollment in these schools has improved over the last few years, especially in the last year. And I can tell you that in all cases, without exception, there's been plenty of capacity for these students to be enrolled and accommodate these increased enrollments. Next slide.
Dr. Sveta.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a hard copy of the presentation?
We can provide you.
Okay, thank you.
The middle schools. This is the total enrollment over the last 5 years. And while the previous slide you could tell that Dwight and Samoa increased in enrollment, when you combine all the middle school students, and so this is the district-wide numbers. 5 years ago we had 2,175 middle school students. Today we have a little under 2,000 middle school students. So this bar graph is pretty graphic in reference to being able to show what the decline has been in the middle school enrollment. Next. These are the elementaries, and I realize this is a busy chart because we've listed all the 9 elementary schools, but it gives you an idea as to which of the schools that have actually increased in enrollment. The blue column to the right, the darker blue column to the right is this year's enrollment, and you can tell, for example, that Benavides continues to increase in enrollment, and As we move over to the right, you see Cabrillo also increasing slightly. Five Palms has increased in enrollment primarily because Five Palms has become the bilingual cluster school for this area. Hutchins has declined somewhat. We have a decline at Kindred, a decline at Matla, and a decline in Palo Alto. These declines are primarily due to the bilingual clusters, where the bilingual students are being concentrated in 4 schools. And then, of course, you have Price, and you have an increase in enrollment at 535. Next. So here we have the district-wide elementary enrollment for the last 5 years. 5 years ago, we had 5,282 elementary children, and today we have 4,481. So when you consider all the information provided in these charts, you can tell high school age students, our enrollment is increasing in that category. Middle school is declining, and the most significant decline is at the elementary level. Next chart. So here we look at where we are today in reference to where we've been the last 5 years as it pertains to the 4th week of enrollment versus the snapshot date. As the board knows, the district is funded based on a date of enrollment, usually toward the end of October, usually the last Friday of October, at whatever enrollment the district has at that point. That is the number of students that will be used in the formula for the funding of the school system. Now, since these enrollment figures that I presented earlier are based on where the district was last Friday, which was the Friday of the 4th week of school, we went back and made the comparison as to where the district was on the Friday of the 4th week in these previous years in comparison to the snapshot date for those years. You can tell here by looking at the charts that with a little leeway, for the most part, where the district is in enrollment at the end of the 4th week is pretty close to where they'll be at snapshot date. Well, last Friday we were at 9,091 students, slightly under 9,100. And I estimate that when we do this snapshot, we're going to be real close to that 9,100. We actually have increased about 14 students since last Friday. Today's enrollment is about 14 students greater than that. But this will fluctuate as we head toward a snapshot. So generally, I'm looking at an enrollment most likely this year in the neighborhood of about 9,100 students. Next chart. This one will tell you what the budget impact will be concerning that. The board might recall that when we prepared budget last year, we had a projected enrollment of 9,360 students. When we initially started with the enrollment projections in the budget process very early on, the number we actually started with was 9,169. It's not here in the chart. We made an adjustment as we went through the process, and we went up to 9,360. This basically tells us that we were probably pretty active the first time around. Had we not made an adjustment, we wouldn't be so far off. But we did make the adjustment as we prepared budget. And so I estimate that we're going to be about 269 students short in enrollment. Each student has roughly, and this rough because it depends on the values assigned to each student, but it's roughly $6,200. Right now we're projecting a shortfall for this fiscal year that we're in of a little under 1.7 million. This is going to change depending on what that final number is, that snapshot. But I think in very general terms, this is about the amount of money that the district will need to make up over this fiscal year that ends next August 31st. I'm confident that we can make up this shortfall, but I think the administration, all of us need to be very prudent in how we expend our money over the next several months and into the end of the school year. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to respond to questions the board members might have.
Board members, are there any comments, concerns? Flores?
Thank you.
I noticed a significant difference from the middle school, and then I think elementary was the most significant as far as the enrollment from last year to this year. Do we know from student requests, or let me just put the student reports that are, students that did not return, so if another school is requesting their records, do we know how many of those students we lost to the charter schools?
Well, we continue to get those requests, you know, and we are starting to count, and we have from the beginning of the school year. I don't have that estimate or that number for you right now, but most likely we can report that out sometime in October, because as we get again closer to snapshot, that's when the reason October is the snapshot period of time is that enrollment district-wide and district state throughout the state usually peak in October, and then things start to change. So let us report that out to you in October, and we'll see what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ibarra?
So let's say that the estimate stays at 9,091. What's the difference between where we were at last year and that number?
It's approximately 500.
So
approximately 500. Okay. Now, and let me also comment in reference to Ms. Lutta's question. So we can assume that from last year to this year, we're about 500 to 550 short in that range. The last 2 years, we were actually losing about 2%. Between 200 and 250 students were being lost, just generally as enrollment was declining. If we can assume that decline continued into this year, so my guess right now is that this shortfall of 500 to 550 students, approximately 300 or so, in my opinion, right now would be attributed to charters, at least new charters. Keep in mind, we were already losing students to some charters prior. But yet we have to factor the erosion of enrollment over the last several years, and I think that continues into this year. Now, not wanting to deliver bad news, but we have to be realistic about these things, is that the two charter schools that open within our boundary are not full. They enrolled approximately half of their enrollment this year, and they will enroll the second half next year. So I anticipate something very similar for next year.
Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns?
Thank you, Mrs. Seguin.
Mrs. Prado?
I think when we did the projection, when you did the projections, Dr. Savetta, of 9,360, actually I think you had projected less the last time, the very beginning, and then you jumped
Yeah, at the beginning, the original projection was 9,169. That's not right? Yes. Yeah. Everybody remembers that? Yes.
And then we had the discussion about projections, and I said, I think we're going to have maybe 8,800. So losing 300 kids is really a big impact into our fund balance, into the general fund, because of the funding that we're going to lose. But I know that you're saying charter school has impacted that. But I also believe, and this is my opinion, that the closure of an elementary and the clustering has also had an impact on our 269 kids, or the 300 kids that we've lost. I really do think that, plus the added charter schools, had a big impact on the enrollment, and we're losing our kids. That's all I have.
Okay. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? All right, so board members, at this point, we had decided to go into closed session, but because we have our principals here, I wanted to see if I can get a consensus to go over the, Dr. Silver, please help me. The campus improvement plan, which is number 2 on the discussion and possible action. So board members, do I hear any objections? Okay, Dr. Saavedra, let's go on to that.
Okay, let me pass it on to Ms. Castro, and we'll present some information, and then if the board has any questions, principal later to answer those questions.
So I'm going to speak briefly on the process of creating our campus improvement plans. It begins with our campus needs assessment. This is conducted every spring. We do this in May, primarily end of April, May, where campus instructional leadership teams review their current CIP, and they actually go into classrooms and see, do we see evidence of completion of this goal, of this strategy? And so if instructional goals were met, were there evidence of them? Do we see evidence of them? So based on this needs assessment, the SILT teams then review preliminary data, whatever is available in May. Primarily, normally we have like our first round for the elementaries and middle schools, and begin to form key actions for the upcoming year. First round is usually done around June. Then they're updated again when principals return in July and August, when final accountability data is available. At that time, they really start honing in on what key actions and how they're going to measure it and what's their indicator of success. With that, SVBM's site-based decision meetings are held at each campus to review what is in the CIP, what are the goals, and it is a requirement that every campus receiving Title I funds has to do a public presentation of their accountability data, their goals for the upcoming year. And so most principals have knocked this out in their open house or meet the teacher. So they have a PTA meeting at the beginning, let's say, they'll share their data, with that, and then conduct the open house. Additionally, just want to mention that all of these documents are living documents. They get updated quite frequently. So I believe Ms. Martinez sent a folder to all board members on Tuesday. And the reason for this was several got updated just over the weekend. And what happens is we had a learning block at our first principals meeting. District-wide, we went to go see 5 schools. Well, as a result of some feedback that we got from the learning block, okay, we need to, we thought this was, we had this, we need to put this back on our CIP, or we need to adjust the indicator. And so there are adjustments as we go through the year, so I wanted to make sure everyone had access to the folder. So, because some were updated over the weekend, and I wanted y'all to have the most updated information as we go forward. So at that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, board.
And principals are here too, to any specific on their questions.
In the board book, Mrs. Flores presented some questions and were answered, so I'd like to ask her if there are any clarifying questions needed. Go ahead, Mrs. Flores.
Thank you. And thank you very much for answering these questions. And it might have been another overlook. My first question was about the campuses. Do all campuses have a vision statement? Okay. I looked at the corrected copies, and it might have still been overlooked at Benavides Elementary, but I did not see a vision statement for Benavides.
I'll double check that one to make sure.
It's okay. And then lastly, and I know, and I'm not here to pick on anyone, it's just that we're already in our 5th week of the school year, and I realize that Kindred Elementary has a brand new principal, but the strategy number 3 that deals with critical thinking skills, I'm still a little concerned that it hasn't been addressed yet. Can I ask how soon that will be addressed? Because I do not see any action key descriptors for that. Who's monitoring that? What are the strategies for expected results for that particular skill, and how it's going to be reviewed? So everyone else has that, for the exception of how soon is that going to be completed?
Mr. Nunes, would you like to share?
Good evening. I'm Roland Lucas, campus principal. I have Dr. Scala here. He's our assistant principal. One of the things that we made a decision on is we have completely, most of our SILT members are new. And since they did not have any input in regards to the campus improvement plan that was developed in the CNA, they wanted to start from scratch. One of the things that they wanted to do was how the rotations were taking place. And in regards to on goal 3, one of the things that we're doing in regards to the rotations and the specials is that we're providing we're providing counseling services throughout the instructional day, and that's very, very important because we have a 90% economically disadvantaged population on our campus, district-wide. How are we servicing all our students? And that's one of the things that we're putting in there. The other thing that we will discuss was how are we taking care of our students when it comes to providing the extra services that need to be provided. One of the decisions that were made with the SIL team is embedded tutorial during the instructional day. One of the things that we need to look at is that our children are in the classroom 7.5 hours to 8.5 hours, 8 hours a day. After the tutorial, many of these students are very, very tired. Teachers are tired. So how can we provide these services during the instructional day to make sure that we're taking care of our students? So we're also doing rotations to make sure we're taking care of our Tier 3 students, okay? And we're not forgetting our gifted and talented students. One of the goals, if you look at the updated version, if you did receive the updated version, on the mastery level, we have high expectations for the mastery level. And not only that, but we also put in our campus improvement plan as the expectation for our students that are receiving special education services. Kindred Elementary School had 0% passing for our 3rd grade students, and that's alarming, and that's something that we need to take care of. We're looking at the students' IEPs of how we can make accommodations and make adjustments to make sure we're providing services. Right now, we have our instructional coach helping out with that process, and as well as our reading specialist. One of the things that we're looking at is how we can provide services to our students without them losing instruction. One of the things is that our students that are struggling, if you have 2 different teachers, even though they're highly certified teachers, they have a different way of teaching a concept. And if the child is already struggling, what are we doing to make sure that we're taking care of that child and to make sure there's nothing lost in transition? For example, okay, let's say that you have a math problem. I'm a math teacher, former science teacher. The beauty about a math problem is that it can be solved many possible ways. But if the child is already struggling, and if you teach that child with 2 different adults the same concept but a different style, that student can get lost in that transition where, you know, which way do I pick? Which is the best way? So what we're doing is that during our rotation, we're also taking our Tier 3 students, our content area teachers are taking care of our Tier 3 students, and our students that are high flyers and our students that pass the test are going to additional rotations to make sure that we master that level 3. That way we master that level 3 because all they need is just a little bit more push. Can we do projects in the library? There should be no reason why the library should not be used throughout the instructional day. There's no reason why the computer lab should not be used during the instructional day. We have so many programs available that can be used for our high achievers, for our students that pass the test, that will help them reach that next level. So what are we doing? We're making all of these plans, we're making adjustments to see what's working and not. And the SILT team is meeting on a weekly basis to see what are we doing to make sure we make these switches. So one of the things is that they decided to change this around. It was a site-based decision. And the reason we do that is because no longer can they say, well, the principal made the plan. It was teacher-made plan. So if you say it's teacher-made plan, you're empowering the teachers, and you're taking ownership into that plan. So that's what we're doing. What can we change? So everything's being done by the teachers, by the SIL team. And that's the beauty about the plan that we're doing. So now the next step is when are we going to meet again? We're planning that process because, again, the concern of our teachers is that they don't want to use instructional time. Okay? They don't want to use instructional time, but we're going to do it on Saturday. The first meeting that we had it, 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, we had it 3 weeks ago where it was, we had our 7 teachers, and they had the school business day, and they worked on the plan, but it's a little by little process. And if you look at the goals, they want to have, they want to be a higher achieving school. Again, they want to be the #1 school in the district. Sorry, my elementary school principals, but I'm going to get one of those trophies next year. And that's the plan. That's the plan. Dr. Zavala has been very, very helpful in helping out with this transition. I mean, he's helped out enormously, and it's about kids. It's always about kids. And if you look at the goals as well, our attendance goal, the district wants, 1%. I want 1.5% growth. I'm very competitive. I'm gonna try to beat Dr. Hinojosa. That's my goal.
The reason I was asking is because, like I said, we're in week 5, teachers already started teaching us in week 1, and I was curious as to what are the strategies that they are using for strategy number 3 that is in most campus plans. Most elementaries and middle schools have strategy number 3, meaning the higher order thinking skills.
Right, and that's what we're doing, within the master schedule of how we're breaking down our students into tiers. And again, we're maximizing every teacher that we have, and that's what we're going to put into the plan. We're just working it out as to how we're going to put it in there, but right now the process is taking place. It is taking place. I can assure you that we're not only taking care of our students that are struggling, but also our gifted and talented students, because they deserve the best. Everybody deserves the best. There's no reason why we should not have 100% passing with our gifted and talented students. There should be no reason why our gifted and talented students should not be at the mastery level. There's no excuse.
And my concern too is that this plan should be presented and everyone should have a copy of it in the school, and the parents in the community should know what the plan is for the campus. So that's why my question was, how soon do you think it will be completed?
We're working on it. Within the next 3 weeks, we should have something in
Okay,
place.
thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any comments, questions, or concerns, board members?
I have
Mr. Ibarra.
something on the district improvement plan, not necessarily the campus, but I actually needed it up on the screen because I kind of wrote it by page number. Well, you know what? We don't need to get into all of that. It's pretty basic. You have some, under your summative evaluations on 6 and 2, for bilingual ed, you have some strategies and some resources that are kind of designated to go into the bilingual program.
Okay.
My question is, with the clustering that occurred just this year, and schools already kind of started, when are these resources and when are these changes going to be put into place for the bilingual programs at those schools? And specifically resources. So like, one of the concerns that I've heard out there is that the clustering of the program, just an example, should have provided more books, you would think, because you took books from several campuses, put them all in one campus. Well, the books were just repetitious, so they were the same copies at all campuses, that now one campus has 3 copies of a same book, for instance. So instead of increasing the amount of books that we should have, or the variety of books that we should have, all we did was increase how many we had of the same copy. So my question is resources so that the clustering program really, works and really reaches its full potential. These resources, because we put bilinguals in clusters now, and we should have saved some.
Are the resources targeted to meet the needs of the bilingual students?
Right,
To hit the goals that they need?
when and if are these going to hit the schools?
Yes, sir. Tomorrow, we have a meeting with our bilingual steering committee, which is, we asked every bilingual cluster school to send a representative to us. And so we have our first meeting tomorrow where we just got our new budget, for our Title III budget. And so we're going to sit down as a steering committee, and the teachers are going to let us know specifically what resources do they need and want this year.
Okay.
And so what we did with the resources from last year is, for example, the resources, the bilingual resources that were at MATLAB and at Armstrong were sent to Five Palms. The ones from W and Athens were sent to Price, and so on and so forth. So all those bilingual materials are already at the cluster schools. And you're right, some of them are repetitive because we have more than one teacher. Last year we just had one per campus. So in some grade levels we have 3 bilingual teachers, so those were necessary. So everything that was out in the district is now at cluster schools. We went around and talked to our teachers, classroom by classroom, to see what textbooks they needed in English and in Spanish. We've been at Athens a lot of times, pulling material from there, both in English and Spanish, and other schools. The schools have been great, sending both language materials to our cluster schools. But once again, we have our Title III budget ready to go, and we're just waiting for input from our committee starting tomorrow.
Okay, and don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I just feel like we support that program, and I feel like it was a good one, me personally, to cluster this bilingual education into certain schools. But we do want to provide, we want to make sure that we support those campuses that intercepted and became the clustering campus so that they can succeed, and that's the point I'm trying to make. So
Yes, sir. As a
appreciate
matter of fact, just this week, I was at FICOM, because one of the things that we're doing is ensuring that, for example, the robotics program is at our cluster schools. And Price has been very gracious, and they meet every Wednesday after school, the robotics program. And so we are, the cluster schools have teams of teachers that are going to go over there and see how they're doing. And we bought 10, the bilingual program already bought 10 robots to distribute out to our schools. So we're doing and working really hard to ensure that our kids and our teachers have the best resources they can.
Thank you very much. So the next question was on the GT program, and that's on the Summit of Evaluation 2. So under that, it just said that the GTs were going to focus on outside projects, I believe it said.
We're at, let me ask our Director of STEM and Advanced Academics, because we actually are serving our GT students a little differently this year. So go ahead.
We actually have two GT teachers that will be starting in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be providing a 90-minute pull-out for our K-5 students once a week. And they will also be working with our middle school students for about 45 minutes to an hour each week. And our first focus will be working on research and teaching our students how to research. And then we will be working on the Texas Performance Standards Project, which is a free resource from the state of Texas. And it teaches our students to research. It has a phase 1 piece where our teachers guide and facilitate the students, and phase 2 is where the students find an area of interest and they work through that project with the guidance and mentor of the teacher.
So K-5 is going to start a 90-minute pull-out one time a week?
Yes, sir.
The middle school is what?
Whatever their class period is, it's about a 50 minute once a week. Yes, sir.
And so we think that the 2 GT teachers this is for the whole district.
Yes, sir.
Is that sufficient, do you think, to serve our community?
It's a start. I would like to see in the future where we have possibly 5, up to 5, to really implement a program that's going to enhance the learning of those students and really extend the learning. This is a bare minimum.
What we're trying to eventually come to is, let's say at Price, all the GT on first, if we could have a GT lead that does nothing but GT, 1 teacher per campus, and let's say at Price, this teacher does all GT students, all first grade, all day on Monday. Then she sees all GT students all day on Tuesday, 2nd grade. Then 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. That's what we're eventually moving towards. There are many models out there. We had models in the past, but I feel like if we're really trying to get, really service our GT, they can't be kind of sprinkled everywhere, because what happens is, just by differentiation with teachers, they tend to go towards the middle or teach towards the low end perhaps, and so that's why we're starting pullouts where, the students identified at GT have that attention to them. And so eventually, what I just mentioned about having a GT lead at every campus where all they do, first grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade, is hopefully what we'll move to eventually, but this is what we're starting with.
So instruction on their level is what we're trying to do with the pull-out.
Well, and extend it and go beyond and push their level. and, to challenge them, they need to be challenged beyond, yeah, so.
And because, that was really important to me because of obviously our board goals.
Yes.
So, I mean, to kind of reach the mastery level in the areas that we want to reach it in, we can't forget about the high achievers, I think
Right, and
that's-
it's not just the GT students, it's also all of our students. We need to add that depth and complexity into the curriculum so that we're reaching all of them to move them up.
So that's all I have on GT. That's all I have, actually. So,
Okay, are there any other comments? Mrs. Bravo?
Yes, I just have one piggybacking on what Mr. Ibarra said on the bilingual program for Ms. Chapa. I think you just mentioned that you're going to be meeting now with the bilingual teachers to talk about resources, what is it that they need. What took so long to have this meeting? My concern is you're asking them, what resources do you need? That takes time for you to get that in. They're already behind because we've been in school, 6 weeks or so, 5 weeks. So they're not going to have the materials and the things that they need until another couple of weeks. So what was the delay, knowing that we were clustering bilingual kids?
Yes, so we knew that we already bought the teachers some of the materials they needed with last year's money. So we have all the technology, we have all the online programs that they've been using since day one. The meeting that we're having now is that we buy materials for teachers, but we have an allotted amount of money that we wanted teacher input. And we just got our Title III money, and that's why we're meeting now. Because we weren't sure exactly how much money we were going to get, and now that we know how much money we can move forward with.
So how long is it going to take for them to get what they need?
We normally get materials within a week. Our vendors are great.
Okay. So, and if we have to, you could put a rush on it. Because they need those materials to teach the kids, and there shouldn't be a delay in that.
Absolutely, and our teachers have a lot of supplemental materials, and they have a lot of online supplemental materials for all grades, pre-K through high school.
I have a question for Dr. Saavedra. Dr. Saavedra, there have been other times where money has been needed, but money had not come in yet, so we used the general fund and then reimbursed the general fund. Is that something that we could have done with the bilingual program?
Tracy?
Depending on the specifics of the grant and whether or not they have a pre-award allowability and when the grant start date was, we could have potentially provided some additional funds in lieu of the final number.
So we could have already taken care of this before school started then.
Potentially. I'd have to look at specifics of the grant.
Well, I hope that that's something that we'll consider in the future. If there's materials that are needed for the children and it's through a title fund or another grant or program, let's get that in there and then just reimburse the general fund for it, because that's important. Those teachers and kids need those materials before school starts.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other comments, questions, or concerns, board members? Okay, so now we're going into closed session. Thank you.
Need a motion to approve.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So do I hear a motion to approve the 2017-18 District Improvement Plan and Campus Improvement Plans to create innovative school experiences that will raise student achievement? Okay, motion by Mrs. Mala Prather, seconded by Mrs. Guerra. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Now we're going into closed session. The board will return to open session and take appropriate action, if any, on items discussed in closed session. No action will be taken in closed session. Further, board members are reminded that all items discussed in closed session must remain confidential so as to avoid liability to the district. The board will consider and discuss the following items. Closed meeting pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Number one, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Number two, discussion to sanction an educator for abandonment of contract. Number 3, discussion concerning the evaluation of the superintendent. And the time is 7:31. Thank you. now back into open session. The time is 8:22 p.m. We are now on consent items. So we have 2 items under consent. Let me read. Policy B, local states that the consent agenda shall include items of a routine and recurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion, unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote. So we have 2 items. Do I need any items to be pulled?
Yes, number 2.
Okay, number 2. So for item number 1, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
A motion has been made by Mrs. Flores, seconded by Mrs. Guerra. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, motion passes. Number 2, Mrs. Prado.
Thank you. I have a question on the, and I had already submitted questions, and Dr. Severo graciously answered them for me on the contract. And they provide me, in fact, with the fee schedule that's going to be charged to the parents. And I think you had said, or in your response, that it's the same that SAU and the city are going to have the same fee schedule?
That's correct.
And it's going to be based on income?
That's correct.
Is that it? Okay. And do we have on the document here, and there's a typo, by the way, it's insurance, I forgot the I, number 41, page 41. But, so legal has looked at it, and is there something implemented to make sure that we don't get the same result we got from SAUs when they terminated abruptly and started charging fees? Is there something in the contract that says that?
In this contract? No, ma'am.
Like you put something in here to cover us, to make sure that we're not going to start, if they don't get their funding, or if the city decides not to fund us, that we'll get notice?
If the city decides not to fund us, we would not contract with a YWCA.
Okay.
In essence, the money from the city flows to the school district. And then we contract with the YW to provide the services. And in addition to the money that we get from the city to pay for this contract, there's some additional income, or excuse me, revenue that's generated through that sliding scale we talked about also.
So would number 27 cover that, that she's asking about? It says either party may terminate this agreement, would that cover that?
Well, the termination is in reference to terminating this contract between the school district and the YWCA. Yeah, that's what that's about.
Right.
But this is a very different situation than what happened with SAUs in the past. Because what happened with SAUs in the past, the fees that they were charging parents were being subsidized. Actually, the program was being subsidized by some grant that they were able to get. What was it? I forgot what the grant was. Anyway, and that grant eventually stopped. All right. And so this is, again, we don't contract with YW until we know the city has approved the funding.
Okay, and they've got the money.
Right.
The funding.
Yeah.
So is there, I'm assuming the city has committed to funding this for the whole school year from their budget, and therefore we won't have to worry about, are they going to cut the funding now for these programs?
Yeah, the city has notified us, I believe it's 75,000 that we get. Yeah.
All right, and then the other question that I had asked was the number of slots, and I think you said there's 100 slots for the 3 campuses, for each campus?
Each campus, 100
Okay,
per
so
campus. Yeah.
that's 100 students then per campus that they'll be able to service.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move for approval?
Number 2. Motion has been made by Mrs.
Second.
Further, seconded by Mr. Ibarra. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, we are on discussion and possible action items number 1. And I'm going to read the motions. we vote on the two separate motions, or it's carried as one?
You can make one motion for both.
Okay, so I'm making one motion for both individuals. The Board of Trustees move to find Olga and Gilbert Bauer, a certified educator, has abandoned their contract with the South San Antonio Independent School District, and that they failed without good cause to comply with the Texas Education Code Sanctions 21.105 A-B. I further move the Board of Trustees on behalf of the district authorize administration and legal counsel to seek sanctions against them and file a complaint with the State Board of Educator certification pursuant to TEC 21.105C and 19 TAC 249.14 as discussed in closed session.
Move for approval. Second.
I was going to say, Ms. Ostaguin approved the, Ms. Ostaguin made the motion, seconded by, I'm going to use Mrs. Prather. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, so now we're on number 3, discussion and action to approve the stipend changes for PBIS due to funding. Dr. Saavedra.
So again, members of the board, in August, when the board approved the budget, they also approved the salary manual, and within that salary manual are the stipends for the year. The stipends identified in that manual in August that the board approved were not accurate for the PBIS grant. The grant amount for these stipends is $600 at Shepherd, Five Palms, Armstrong, and Matla, and $900 at Dwight, Sawana, Benavides, Palo Alto, Hutchins, Price, Cabello, and Kindred. So these amounts are different than what are in that manual. Since the board approved those amounts in the manual, this will require board approval to change them.
Board members, are there any comments, questions, or concerns?
I have a question.
Mrs. Flores?
Why the discrepancy in the amount?
Ms. Lopez is going to explain that for you.
Originally, the way the grant application is renewed, Shepherd, Five Palms, Armstrong, and Madeline were actually not going to be receiving an additional stipend. So the budget was so that there was extra money for attendance incentives, as well as to further extend the $600 to the initial cohort. They are now in Tier 3 training, so we wanted to compensate them for their Saturday trainings and extra duties that they did with regard to being on the serving on the PBIS team.
Is that $600 per campus?
Per teacher on the team, on the the campus PBIS team.
So there's one teacher per campus?
Yes. There's a team of
So each of the teachers will get that.
That's correct. That are on the PBIS team.
I guess what I'm looking for, just so I clarify the question, what's the total that we're looking for, or the total adjusted amount for PBIS?
It was originally $1,200, and so now to continue with the extending the stipend, we're asking to give the initial cohort $600 and $900 for the additional cohorts.
So $1,500 is the total additional money needed to fund PBIS?
No, there's no additional money needed. This is within their grant, they just reallocated monies within the existing grant.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any comments, questions, or concerns?
I have a question. I think you mentioned that you're taking money from the attendance incentive.
Oh, no, this is after, there's also money for, we're making adjustments, so there's also monies for attendance incentives.
Okay, so I would hate to see money be taken away from attendance incentives. All right, thank you.
Okay, move for approval. Okay, motion item number 3 has been made a motion by Mrs. Prather. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Flores. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 4, discussion and possible action to approve Garza Gonzalez and Associates for the 2016-17 annual financial audit. Dr. Saavedra.
So speaking members of the board, on September 1st, we received notice from the auditing firm out of Houston, Harris, Belk, and I forgot the third name, that they were canceling the contract and would stop providing services to the district. They were the firm the district has elected to conduct the external audit. As most board members know, the external audit report to the state is required to be turned in late January. The resignation of the auditors at this late moment created a major issue for us, and so Mr. Zamora has been in this field for a number of years. Contacted the firm of Counselor Gonzalez and Associates. They discussed the option of them picking up the audit for us this year, and the recommendation today is for the board to approve Counselor Gonzalez and Associates for the 16-17 annual financial audit.
Move for approval?
Discussion.
Okay, before we discuss, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so a motion has been made by Mrs. Mala Prather, seconded by Mr. Ibarra. It's open for discussion. Mrs. Bravo.
I just have one question. Dr. Savetta, I had asked him to send me the notice of resignation withdrawal from the auditor. And in their email to Dr. Savetta, they mentioned that to help facilitate the process of attaining a new auditor, we have contacted a reputable firm with Texas School District experience and described to them the need for the district to begin a new relationship in which all disclosure made prior to retention with a new emphasis on communications with its auditors. And they have preliminarily agreed to this district. Who was the reputable firm, Dr. Savetta?
We don't know. We did not pursue it. This was an auditing firm that was clearly dropping us. We had no desire to take their recommendation.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion is on the floor.
I have a question.
Oh,
I have a
okay,
couple
Mr.
questions,
Ibarra.
sorry, JC.
Mr. Ibarra.
What was the scope of work of the original firm, Harris?
So the firm that is no longer with us actually had two scopes of work. They were responsible for our annual financial audit, and as well they were doing the TA corrective action plan review.
Okay, so Gonzalez and Garza have been contracted to do just the scope
of the annual financial audit.
Of the annual financial audit. That's due in
January 20th. 28th.
January 28th. Okay, so because of the constraint, which was the deadline that we need to meet, which is January 28th, is the reason that we couldn't go out for any kind of RFP on this?
Yes, sir. So the normal time for a district with our fiscal year would have been that we would have started interim work back in July, probably no later than August. The issues we encountered with the previous firm kept delaying that process. So we were always in a strict deadline, even with that firm, because of the different things that came up. The fact that they canceled the contract as of September 1st is putting us in a real hard position to meet that deadline. But I have confidence in our staff and in these auditors that we should be able to meet that deadline still.
Okay, so in January, if all they're taking care of is the audit that's in front of us, then and after this audit is turned in January, then we could, next step could be to put out an RFP to get another audit.
If the board so desires, yes, you can do that. You can do that.
Okay. That's all the questions.
Okay, are there any other comments, questions, or concerns, board members? All right, do I hear a motion to approve item number 4 as discussed?
You had a motion on
Okay, so the motion was by Mrs. Prather, seconded by Mr. Ibarra. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so I got some nays. I'm sorry, can I see a show of hands? All in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Okay, and those opposed say nay. Raise your hand. Okay, motion carries. Number 5, discussion and possible action to approve superintendent's evaluation. Do I hear a motion to postpone for October meeting, October 11th? Motion has been made by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Mallett Prater. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Do I hear a motion for adjournment? Okay, motion has been made by Mrs. Flores for adjournment, seconded by Mrs. Prater. Motion carries, and the time is 8:38 p.m.